Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Perspective with Viv podcast. My name is Viv, and this is the show. Today's title is Manifesting Through Self Love, featuring Julie Heaton. Julie Heaton is an author, mentor, certified health and wellness coach, and Reiki master. Her 30 plus years as a corporate executive have culminated in a mission to help more people become their best selves. Her books, The Manifestor's Playbook, The Manifestor's Workbook, and her children's book series, The Adventures of the Fabulous Three, are inspiring and a roadmap to personal growth. Julie's mentoring encourages you to lean in, do the work, and live your best life. Hi, Julie. Thank you for joining me on the show.
Hi, thank you so much. My pleasure.
It's also a pleasure to have you here. I love the topic of manifesting, and I can't wait to dive into it.
We manifest with every thought, every word, everything we do. So whether you believe you're manifesting or not, or you love the topic or not, you're manifesting. So I think I love talking about it too.
Likewise. Now, Julie, you've worn so many hats in your life. What was the moment that made you say, it's time to live life as me, not the roles I've played?
That is such a good question. I lived my life, the first 50 years of my life, actually, playing roles that were somebody else's gift for me. You were this, you were that, the things that were laid upon me. And at some point in my life, around 45, I got very sick, really ill. And it was because I couldn't recognize who I was anymore. I didn't have any joy in my life. And I just decided I was successful from all the ways you look at success, except for I was deeply unhappy. So I ended up just quitting my career and spending some time figuring out who I am and what I want in life and what my offering is in this lifetime. So during those years, I did a lot of soul searching, a lot of seminars, a lot of books, a lot of self-help books, all those things. But it wasn't until I am one of the people that had to full stop my life to figure it out. I was so deeply buried under the layers and layers of other people's expectations.
Thank you for being so vulnerable. And I like that you spoke about layers and layers because you talk about unraveling and unlearning. What was one belief you had to let go of to truly begin manifesting a life that felt like yours?
Wow, that is such a good question. I had to let go of treating myself like I wasn't a friend, my own best friend. I had to let go of blaming myself for things that weren't going right or getting mad at myself for not having known something. I had to forgive myself from past mistakes, past versions of me that I had worn to survive. So, we have in our lives, if we don't know who we are and even if we do know who we are, we change and we grow and we develop these versions of ourselves. And so I had to let go of those versions and love and accept who I am right now in this body, in this version. And that was big. That was a challenge. And I have a friend that's working through this right now. And I just tell him, it's a practice. You're gonna revert back. It's like building a muscle. You have to keep loving yourself, loving on yourself. You have to keep telling yourself you're okay, you're good, and at some point you really believe it. But it takes time. It's like building any muscle.
Wow, thank you for that vulnerable share. I like the whole idea of becoming your own best friend and letting go of versions of yourself that no longer align. I think it's important that we do that, but it's also great when we don't have judgment over those versions of ourselves because then we learn how to love ourselves more in that current moment, because we'll always be shifting. So it's important to have that sort of relationship with yourself. So thank you. Now, what does manifesting really mean to you? Not just in theory, but in practice.
Manifesting, I feel like it's gotten a bad rap because people think I'm going to wish something and I'm going to get it. And if I don't, then I didn't manifest it. The truth is, like I said earlier, we're manifesting all the time. So this interview was manifested. I manifested getting on the show with you. And that is a true story. At the beginning of this year, I thought, I want to get on some podcasts and share what I know. And I think you're my 26th podcast. So out of nowhere, I manifested these podcasts, but I put the thought out there and then I had to do the work to get on the shows, right? So manifesting isn't just wishing and hoping something will work out. It's intentionally knowing what you want out of life. You have to set some intentions. Then you have to do the work to make those intentions come true. And you have to align your vibration, your thoughts, and your feelings, what you're feeling about it. So when I was thinking about being on podcast, what I thought about was how fun it's going to, like, the feeling of how fun it's going to be to talk about all these things I love talking about, and meeting all these new people I wouldn't have met. So the feeling of what I'm feeling right now with you, the shared experience. So for me, manifesting is living life with intention. We're manifesting all the time anyway. Wherever you are right now listening to this podcast, you manifested that. So you might as well manifest with intention. What do you really want? And it's really hard to know what you want unless you really know who you are and love yourself enough to know you're worth what you want.
Wow, that's so profound. Yes, I think a problem is manifesting that a lot of people have is that they don't feel that they are worth what they want. I will give myself as an example. I think that I'm a natural manifestor. I have a life path 11. So manifesting comes easy to me. For me, the biggest block is that belief. That's why I would love to know your perspective on how manifesting works and what do we do? Like, could I just say to myself that I can manifest $1 million and it will show up?
Yes. You can. You can. Well, it's that the big, I, the biggest thing that stops people from manifesting what they really want is the belief they deserve it or they can have it. So I always tell people, if you want to manifest $1 million, so I want to manifest $1 million. Okay, I'm going to make $1 million. And you don't believe you can pay your bills this month, you're not going to manifest $1 million. You have to believe it. You have to believe you already have it. You have to believe you're worth it. You have to believe you deserve it. That's the first thing. And I believe when people they think something sounds good, like I'm going to manifest the man of my dreams. But then you're not doing the work on yourself to pull in the man of your dreams. So even if he came into your life, he's going to be like, oh, she's got some baggage. You have to do the work to get the things you want. The first step is intention. The second one is setting an intention you can believe with all your cell in your body. Can you believe it? And then doing the work to call it in. Like, so if I say, hey, I want $1 million and I believe it with every cell of my body, well, how am I going to make $1 million? Well, I could sell more books. I could do speaking, engagement. So I should probably get some practice speaking. I should probably get my books on Amazon. There's things you should do to call that $1 million in, not just wait for it to come in. So those are two big things I see people do. They think if they make a vision board, which I do believe in vision boards because I'm very visual, so it helps me feel. But the vision board is just one tool to manifesting. It's just, for me, it helps me visualize. So I have 3 vision boards right now. I always have one for my career, one for my health, and one for my relationship. And so I look at them every morning before I meditate and I think on them. And then I say, or something better, this or something better, because we don't know what the universe has in store for us. And when we limit the universe to, I want $5,000 or I want $1 million, what if there's something better? So this or something better for the greater good of all concerned, is what I say. You release the outcome to the universe because we can only see with our 2 little eyes, and the universe sees everything that's lining up for you.
Wow, thank you for breaking that down. So, what I've gotten from what you said is you make an intention, then you sort of let it go, but you work towards it. Like you make yourself the person that will have that thing. And then you also say, this or something better for the greatest good of all, which makes sense. I feel as though it's the belief, it's the fear that limits us when we're trying to manifest. Like I said, if I could speak for myself, because there's a worthiness wound there, of course. I feel as though for me, it comes with programming that please, you should always have limitations with your imagination and your mind, because life is just rigid and boring and it's so magical and you can't create what you want for yourself, which is such a big lie. So I feel as though um you telling me this is more like, okay, let's see how we could make things much more interesting when it comes to manifesting. Let's see what we can let go of in terms of fear. Let's see how we can work towards these manifestations and see what comes from there. So thanks for explaining that. Now, how do you help people tell the difference between what they truly want and what they've been taught to want?
That is huge because, when I was in the corporate world, I would review people, like, "Okay, so, here's what's happened. Okay, what do you wanna do in the next 5 years?" How blah, blah. "I wanna be a manager." And I would say, "Okay, well, why do you wanna be a manager?" "Well, it's the next step." Okay, well, what do you think your skill set is to be" like, you'd ask they didn't wanna be a manager. It was just the next someone told them that's how you live life. You do this, you do this, you do this, and I find that that's a lot of us are living off of old instructions, old patterns. And to know what you really want, you have to listen to your higher self. You have to learn to meditate and I'm not saying everybody has to sit on a mat for an hour. I That's how I like to meditate, but I also go out in nature and stand in front of trees and just hold on to the tree and listen. Just close my eyes. I just center myself, find inner peace, drive. I teach people to love themselves first and to find inner peace. And that's the only way you know what you really want. It changes everything. Years and years ago, I was at a retreat and I hated my job. And I was like, I wanted this house. I had all these things, and the gal said, okay, um, we're going to do a fire ceremony tonight. I want everybody to write down what their intention is and blah, blah, blah. And I couldn't find one. I couldn't tell you what I really wanted. And I went up to her, I was almost in tears, and I said, Laura, I don't know what to write. I don't know what to I was like freaking out. And she just looked at me and said, how about inner peace? And at that moment, I was like, no, I want a house. I want this, I want that. She was right. Of course. All I wanted was I wanted to have some peace. I wanted to feel the peace in my body and to live from this place of peace. So you're acknowledging that she was right. And that's my goal. I try to be, here's the thing about life is everything is on us. No one's here to save us. And we don't need anybody to save us because we're strong enough to save ourselves. But you have to do it from a place of peace and power. And until you can find that inside yourself, it's really hard to negotiate what you want outside of yourself. Like, so I want $1,000,000. Why? What am I going to do with it? Why is that going to bring me more peace or joy? So when I think about what I'm manifesting or what I want in life, I think about the why. Is that really what I want? Is that what I'm asking for? Maybe. So I would say the first thing to anything, and to be honest, to changing the world we live in right now, is teaching people how to love themselves from the inside out. Because love pours out of you, or hate pours out of you, or anxiety pours out of you, or whatever is in you is coming out of you. The best thing we can all do for the world is learn to love ourselves more. And to have the life you want, whether it's money, relationships, or all of it, just an abundant life, it starts internal. It starts with the self-love and learning how to have such a grounded inner peace that nothing can rock your boat. So we only have control over how we react to the world. And it's hard sometimes right now. Like I can go down a rabbit hole on Instagram listening to things that really upset me. And Although I think it's important to be informed and a responsible citizen, helping when you can and doing the things, I don't think it's responsible to mire yourself in tragedy to where you can't help anybody else. You've got to find a place in yourself where you are still shining your light. It changes everything because then you really know who you are and what you want. Once you love yourself, if you can look in the mirror and say, "Man, you're awesome. Thanks for doing such a great job today." And really mean it, not, just really mean it. Then you know who you are. Then you know what you want out of life. You're doing it from a place of love and not a place of scarcity. And I find that a lot of people manifest from scarcity, what they don't have, and they're afraid, they're afraid they need it. They have to have it. And that doesn't work. Manifesting from scarcity doesn't work. You always want to manifest from abundance, from a place of gratitude and a place of knowing there's something better too. So if you can love yourself and know that, hey, I'm great whether I have this or I don't have it, but it's sure going to feel good, to get this in my life. It changes the vibration of how you're manifesting. You're not, the universe only responds to vibration. It doesn't matter really what we're saying. It's how we're feeling about something. So, and that's how it is all in life. I don't know if you've ever, just think about energy, how energy works. If you've ever walked in a room and there's someone in there who's just like you're just negative and you can pick that up if you're not careful. You can, today is kind of a crappy day. Yeah, why is it so hot again today? Like you kind of get in the rhythm. But if you walk into a room with someone who's like Mr. Lucky, or Mrs. Lucky, and man, what a great day. It's so good to be here authentically. Your energy goes up. It's the same with the universe. You get back what you put out. Energy matches energy.
Ooh, so many gems. Thanks for sharing that. So a couple of things that stuck out to me was, what do we really want? And a lot of times it's not material things. It's a state of mind. It's a state of being, right? I like how you said that we have to love ourselves so much in order to believe that we deserve what we want, because it's when you love yourself, from my perspective, it's when you love yourself that you can actually be in a state of abundance. Because for me, speaking from experience, loving myself means that I'm content with where I am and who I am at this very moment, and nothing outside is like such a, what's the right word? I'm not starving of something. I'm not lacking with something. Oh yes, this would make me happy when it comes. You get me? But in this present moment, I'm content. I'm happy. So I like that way of thinking of loving yourself, because you cannot manifest from a place of lack. So if there's lack of love, there's lack of the ability to be love that attracts more love in the form of what it is that you want.
That's right. It's knowing that nothing happens to you. It all happens for you. It's that knowing that life is all for you. So even if it doesn't look like you think it should look, and you don't like what's happening, it's finding that place of gratitude for it. Years ago, maybe 5-6 years ago, my husband and I were in Atlanta, and I had gotten food poisoning from an airline, and I was so sick, and I was just very sick. Anyway, in the middle of all of that, I was thinking, man, isn't my body awesome? Like, it's gonna get out. It's not gonna leave anything in that shouldn't be in there. It's gonna save me. It's like, no, girl, this should not be in your body. We're getting it out. Don't worry, I got you. And so the whole time I was like I don't want to be gross, but over the toilet, I was like, okay, this is hard, but also, wow, what a cool miracle my body is. If you can find that in the things that are happening that seem like, why is this happening to me, instead of, and you can turn it to, why is this happening for me? What is the rainbow here? What can I and move forward with? And I get it. Life believe me, I've had my own challenges. Life can be hard. It can throw some big boulders, but those are boulders for us to learn, to navigate, to climb over, to conquer. And once we do that, we grow. That's what they call the dark night of the soul. You grow from those harder times. So it's it's not always self growth. Isn't always rainbows and butterflies. Sometimes it's trying to climb up a boulder that seems like it's going to roll over and squash you. You know, and we all do it. We all have these things, and it's learning how to care for yourself when you're in the middle of those climbing those boulders. It's learning how to love yourself through it and get the resources you need. If you need a hand up, life isn't meant to go in a straight line. It's not. And people forget that. They forget it in manifesting. They forget it in life. We're meant to grow and learn, and growing and learning can be a challenge, especially if you're learning how to unravel things and become who you are. There's a possibility you could lose people on that unraveling because they don't like this new version of you, and it makes them really uncomfortable. So they're like, "Ooh, I don't want to unravel anything. You go over there and I'll be over here." And that's okay. I mean, we're all on different paths. Anyway, it's all about self-love. Until you can love yourself for who you are, if you can look in the mirror in your own eyeballs and love that, you're ready to manifest the life of your dreams.
Thank you so much for what you just shared, because two things stood out for me. When you said it happens for us, not to us. I read oracle cards as well. So I have a particular card in a particular deck that talks about it's happening for me, not to me. It's breaking me open, not breaking me. And I think it's an important thing to remember, because sometimes when life is happening, we think, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? What did I do in a past life? What did I do wrong? Is this my karma? But changing that mindset of this is happening to me, to for me, it really allows you, like you said, to kind of like evolve, grow. We're here to evolve and grow. So we look at what is causing us turmoil, to ask us what it is we can learn from it, or what the fear is behind it. Because I find that, shadow work, I'm in certain new environments that don't necessarily, no longer a controlled environment. I used to like being in a controlled environment of my own fashion, just so I wouldn't be so triggered. But now I'm out in the world, which is why I said I think I lost my magic, because it's like, because there's so much in this new environment, I'm like losing that thing that I had for me. So I said I was going to sit down and sit with the fear and unpack it, because it's by doing that that I start to see, what is this teaching me? What wisdom can I gain from this? And how can I use it to evolve and to step up my energy? Because that's what I'm being called to do. So
Mm.
that's one of the first things I said that really stuck out to me. The second thing was the thing about boulders and, about pushing through. I find that in life, because we're carrying so many things from life, like you said, energy, well, it's kind of like it's heavy. So because we're carrying that, we're not necessarily able to see our light anymore. We're not necessarily able to tap into, I would like to say, our source. What do you think about that? Those kind of things can act like barriers and blockages, right?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Things can feel so heavy you can't find that inner peace. It feels like the weight of the world. And that's when I really turn to I meditate every morning. Whether and sometimes, to be honest, I don't want to.
Mm.
The weight of the world's too heavy, and I just want to go have my coffee and do my thing, but I always feel better when I do. If you can silence the noise around you and
Yeah.
just tap in and hear what's trying to come through. And like I said, it doesn't have to be on a mat. It can be a guided meditation. It can be a walk in nature without your headphones. I always tell people it's a walk in nature without music or anything going on. Just listen to what's happening around you. And by the way, you bring so much light. You might feel heavy, but I could see your light. You're really you just glow. You're just really seriously. So
Thank
you
you.
might feel that, but you're still radiating. And I will say it's work. There are times when I will say this. This is people need to hear this. We're all just practicing humans. So nobody has this right. We do our best every day, okay? And sometimes my best is brushing my teeth. There's days where life has just gotten me and I need a day to myself,
Yeah.
you know? I need to just be alone. I'm more introverted, so for me, when things feel really heavy, I just go internal.
Mm,
I don't want
same.
anybody to ask me how you're doing. I don't want any of that. I just wanna go internal. And there's a few days a year where I do that, where I just need to watch maybe a Netflix series and not think about anything else. And that's perfectly good. I'm telling your audience that is not just okay, that's self-care. You need to do that sometimes and don't condemn yourself for it. Thank yourself for it. The trick is to just visit there. Don't live there. When you're make your visit shorter and shorter. So there was a time in my life where that could have lasted 3 or 4 days, and now really uh, there's times where I just want to be all by myself with maybe a bag of chocolate chips, I don't know, and a Netflix series. But the next day, okay, dust myself off and get out in nature or do whatever I need to do. But it's so important to remember we're not Buddha. We're practicing humans. We're all just doing our best all the time. And I feel like when we beat ourselves up for not being better, I don't just feel like that. I know that because I did it. I would say I would get so mad like, upset with myself if I got mad or angry at somebody, or I was, why? What I would say, I literally, this is in my new book. I would say, I just got so mad, blah, blah, blah. That's not very kind. What would the Buddha do? And then I go, well, the Buddha wouldn't do anything because he would never get mad in the first place. And then I would get even more mad at myself. And then it was just this big realization that I'm just human. I just have to do my best and learn from it. And by the way, this is where the shadow work comes in. Why did I get triggered? Well, that's really not about that person at all. That's about when I was 5 years old. And, like now in my life, when I get triggered, I get really excited. So if someone makes me mad or whatever happens, I think, oh, good. There's some juice there. I can figure out what I can unbury something that's been in there in my body. And for those that don't understand shadow work or what I'm saying, it's, we all have, whether you had wonderful parents or not so wonderful parents, and whatever it is, every human has stories that we've kept in our cells, in our body. We have maybe someone said something to us and it landed a certain way. Maybe you were abused. Whatever it is, there's places in your body that you're holding this energy. And so when you get mad at somebody else for something or you get triggered, it's just a mirror to look internal. And that when you look internal and you start asking questions instead of placing blame, like, why would she say that to me? Blah, blah, blah. You just say, gosh, why did I let that make me so mad? What is it that made me so mad? And then you start asking questions. Well, am I really mad? Am I mad? Or is this an old pattern, an old story? Yeah, I'm really mad. Okay, well, why? And if you can get into a place of acceptance versus resistance, so then you could start healing that inner child and doing the shadow work. But first you have to accept that it's about you and not the other person. And then you have to accept that it's okay you were mad. For
Yeah.
a long time, I thought being mad, like getting angry was not spiritual.
Mm,
Like, like I wasn't kind. No, I was, like I equated kindness with spirituality. And that was a mistake because again, we're human. So, and the real spirituality is taking that anger and going, wow, I got really mad. Okay. Why now? Let's just work this out. Why did I get so mad? Anyway, I went off on a little tangent there, but
no, it's fine. So many things to take from what you just said, because what you said, there were gems. You're talking about self inquiry, where when one is triggered, which is literally one of the best aspects of shadow work for me, like when you're triggered, when you're riled up, and you're like, why? Because it's one thing to feel those feelings, it's another thing to question yourself, why do I feel this way? What did this bring up for me? Where can we trace it? What's the root cause? And it's like, ugh, you just unravel, like you said, it's unraveling, it's
it's
unlayering, it's
unraveling.
allowing yourself to see yourself. that's how you evolve when it comes to self-love. That's how you get deeper into self-love with yourself, by being able to strip away all these illusions, all these masks, all these things that have buried who we truly are, and then see
Yeah.
who we are face to face. It's beautiful. Thank you for
And
sharing that.
some things aren't even yours. I mean, like, I always ask myself, is this even my story?
Mm.
Because, when I first started getting on podcasts, like, when I woke up in the morning, if I had a podcast, I would go, "Ugh, I dread it." And like, every time. It was hilarious. And I'm the one that wanna get on them, and I love having these conversations. But my story was, "Ugh, I dread it." So, about 5 podcasts in, I stopped and I was in the hallway. I was walking to the podcast. I'm like, "Is this even your story? Like, do you really dread this?" And the answer is really clear. No, this is not your story. You love these conversations. You always leave lit up. I mean, this is my favorite thing to do on the planet. But it was an old story of my mom's. Whatever she had planned for the day, ugh, I wish I hadn't made that plan. I dread it. So, so from a little girl, that was her pattern, and I just picked up the pattern because I was around. So I want people to know that too. These stories might not even be yours. You've just been carrying something as this secular pattern that just comes up at these times where you think you should dread it. But I love it. You know what I mean? So that was kind of a funny one. Like, it was so obvious,
I
but
love that.
it happens more subtly. So I think the first question to ask yourself, is this even my story? Do I even believe this?
And what would you say about when you're feeling the energy of someone else, like energetic projections that you're carrying, but you didn't know that you were? What would you say about that?
Well, it's important to distinguish between what is yours and what's somebody else. You know, you don't need to carry other, especially if you're an empath. I'm an empath. My son is extraordinary empathic. I mean, and it's learning that, well, even if my husband's upset or something's happening that's really close to me, it's really important to have the empathy for them. Like, gosh, I'm sorry you're going through that, but then not to carry it. And those of us that like to control situations, we often fall into peacemaker mode or peacekeeper mode because of this very thing. So he's upset over here. I don't want him to be upset. It makes me uncomfortable. So I'm going to fix this over here for him so he
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to feel this discomfort.
Yes.
That robs him of the opportunity for growth, but it also robs me of my inner peace. And it makes me manipulative. It's controlling, really. So instead of learning to be uncomfortable, sitting with the discomfort of someone else being uncomfortable, which is something empaths have to learn to do,
So
you just learn that, that isn't mine to carry. That isn't mine to carry. And that takes a lot of practice too. It all takes practice. I hate to tell you this, but
so
none
true.
of it's rocket science, but it all is practice.
Yeah.
And I would say to people, learning to love yourself is it's forgiveness, compassion, and practice. Forgiveness, compassion, practice. I mean, if you wouldn't say it to your best friend, don't say it to yourself. If you say it to yourself, don't hold it against yourself. Forgive yourself immediately. Move on. So it's just forgiveness, compassion.
Thank you for sharing those with us. And you know what's really funny? It's the fact that self-love seems like the basis for everything because it's layered. Self-love comes with boundaries. It comes with shadow work. It comes with healing childhood trauma. It comes with inner child healing. It comes with what's the right word? Changing your programming, changing maybe societal beliefs, unlearning societal beliefs, unlearning patriarchal beliefs, all these things. It's at the basis of everything. It's so crazy. Now, we'll go into self love a bit deeper in the next section, but a couple of more questions on manifestation. Can you walk us through one of your favorite manifestation tools or exercises, especially for someone new to this work?
Still, it sounds old fashioned, but my favorite tool is the vision board. And here's why. Because if you do them right, here's how I do a vision board. And this is how I recommend when people say, "Oh, you want to do a vision board?" Sure, but it has to come with all these things. So when someone does one with me, the first thing I have them do is take a couple days and journal. Like, what do I really want in my life? How do I want to feel when I wake up? I have all these prompts, these questions. A big telling sign about your life is the second you wake up, how do you feel? Do you want to get out of bed? Are you excited? Or you feel deprived? Do you feel a lack of something? So, how do you feel when you wake up? So, anyway, there's a series of questions you ask. Then you get the answers to those questions, and then you set intentions on what you really want out of your life. So, the vision board is first, where are you? Like, accept where you are right now. And what do you really want? What are your intentions? And then, can you close your eyes and daydream? Can you feel that? Can you believe it? If you can't, let's back up a little. Maybe I always use money because it's just so easy, but maybe instead of saying you want $1,000,000, you go to 20,000. Like, what can you believe? Go to the number you can feel in your body. Oh my gosh, that's going to be so great when that check comes in. If you can't feel it, find something you can feel. It's so important. And then the fun part of all that, so if you have your intentions and you're ready, it's very cathartic to go through magazines. I still go through magazines because I think I'm very tactile too. And find the things that go on the board. It's fun to do. It's like this creative process. And then you realize, oh yeah, I really do want to see more sunrises. Okay, that's going to be an intention. I want to see more sunrises. And it just kind of takes you through this process. So for me, it's a vision board because it's more than just cutting things out and throwing them on board. And then after the board is done, it's how I start every morning. It's how I meditate. I just daydream on my vision board. I tell people to put them someplace where you'll see them. In the house we had before this one, we had to walk out the garage and there was this wall and I had my vision board right on the wall. So every time I walked out, I would stop
Nice.
and daydream. So don't be afraid to put it somewhere where you can see it all the time and take a minute, just take the time to daydream on those visions and then release them and say, this or something better for the greater good of all concerned. That's huge. It's not your way or the highway. It's whatever's the best for all concerned. And then with your vision, so like on my vision board years ago, I had this house and it had an ocean view and it had all these things. And the bigger thing was when people come to my home, I want them to leave better. So I want people to come and feel just the love and feel welcome and leave just a little better.
Yeah.
So my vision had all those things, like the words that meant that to me. And I hung a key on it. So like a front door key. And every day when I came home from work, I picked a house in the neighborhood and I would pull over. The people probably thought it was a nut job. And I would think about pulling in that driveway and plopping my purse on the counter and how it would feel to get on the couch. Like, what did it feel like to be living in that house that I wanted? And then I would say, this or something better. And I'll tell you what, I got the exact house I wanted even down to the color of the door. I had an ocean view from every window.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it took a couple years.
No, that's
That was not an
amazing.
immediate manifestation, but the friends that are really close to me, or what's on your board now? And there has been things on my board that haven't come to fruition, either because I didn't believe them, or because it wasn't the best outcome. So you have to accept that too.
Yeah. Which leads me to my next question. How do you stay aligned with your manifestation goals even when things aren't happening as quickly as you'd like?
The board helps me. You got to find what helps you. Everybody has their own thing, right? So maybe I journal too a lot. So I do what's called freeform writing in the morning a lot, where you just write without thinking about it. You write no edits, no periods. You just write and see what kind of comes out. And sometimes that will release something that's blocking me, like some belief system I have. Also, maybe it's not what I really wanted. Maybe it's not aligned because it's not aligned. Maybe something else is more aligned. You don't always get it 100% right. Again, we're practicing humans.
Yeah.
So if you're having trouble staying focused on the vision, maybe it's not quite the right vision, Or maybe you need some good affirmations. I do use affirmation work. I do it all the time. Because for me, like if I am having a hard day or negative thought, I immediately go to everything always works out for me. Everything always works out for me. And it's true. So if you can, like come up with a couple affirmations that support your vision of your life and repeat them when your brain isn't, when it's going to old patterns, it helps you break those patterns, you know?
Yes.
So if you're not aligned with your vision, I would ask myself first, is this really my vision? Do I really want this? And then what's blocking the vision? And then I would write some affirmations that support the vision that you can keep. When I first started doing affirmation work, I would keep them in my wallet, in my purse, in a drawer, because I'd forget them. And so everywhere I went, I would, "Oh, okay, that's my affirmation." I don't have to do that anymore, but it's good to have those reminders. I tell people too, like, set a couple alarms on your phone during the day and to stop. Like, right now you said I'm in the real world and it's really heavy. Well, set an alarm on your phone and stop and do some breath work and give yourself an affirmation. Stop and just be in your body for a minute. That will help break that cycle of heaviness. Sometimes we have to do physical things in the physical world, like set an alarm. Okay, I need 2 minutes. Hold on a second. I'm going to go, do some quick breathing and tell myself I love myself and I'll be back, whatever. We have to be able to remind ourselves somehow. And I know what it's like to work in a corporate environment where you're in meetings and you're this and you're that. And all of a sudden you forget all the
Yeah.
stuff, all the spiritual stuff. And so you have to have something to
Ground you.
ground you. What's important?
Yeah.
What do you need to remember right now?
Thank you so much for all of that. I really loved learning about manifestation. And now we're going to shift into self love as a topic on its own. And my first question is what are some practical strategies or exercises you teach your clients to help cultivate self love?
This sounds so corny, and I know it does, but I swear to you, it works. And for me growing up, body image was huge. We were, and I know it is for girls today too, and boys, but you just never, I look at pictures of myself when I was 20, 30, and I'm like, man, geez, my body was smoking hot, but I didn't like it. All I saw was whatever was wrong. And in the last 6, 7 years, I've learned to love and first accept and then love the miracle of my body, God's gift to me. If we think about our bodies as the best gift you'll ever get in your whole entire world, like this body is a gazillion miracles all in one little package. And then we're like, oh, my thigh, I don't like my thighs. Right. So it really is for me personally, it was visually accepting and loving my body as it is. I do this every day. I look in the mirror naked, go right up and I say, thank you, body. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I love you so much. And some mornings I walk up and I go, hey girl, you're gorgeous. Like give myself a little high five.
Love that.
And I do it every day. I do it every time I get out of the shower. So I because there's such a thing about visualizations and you see it. You see all the plastic surgery. You see all the things. People trying to change the external so they feel better internal. It never works. But if you can look at yourself and not worry about the external and just think, yeah, you know what? This is great. Thank
Yes.
you.
Yes.
Then you don't have to, that's done.
Yeah.
Then I will say, like I said earlier, one of the first things you need to do is figure out how you really, if you write down your thoughts in your head, you'll know what you believe. So catch yourself. Catch yourself. It's first learning to catch yourself with the negativity, like, "God, I'm so stupid." Now, why would you say that to yourself? Why would anybody say that to themselves? Well, I did. I used to say that to myself. So catch that. God, I'm so stupid. And then okay, hold on. Why would I, you're not stupid. Why would you say that? Well, whatever the programming is for that. You got to catch those things. The first thing you do is catch them and then stop them. And then start replacing them with better things, you know? So I don't say that. I don't say those things to myself. If I wouldn't say it to my best friend, I don't say it to myself. And it was hard the first couple of years. I actually asked my friends and my coworkers, if you hear me saying something out loud, you know, because I do talk to myself. So if you hear me saying something negative at all about myself or anybody else, stop me. Just say, hey, Julie, you asked me to do this. This is what you just said. So I asked people to help cue me, you know, so like that was a big help. But if you can do that for yourself, if you can stop the patterns, that's the first thing you have to do. You have to stop this track from running this negative movie. I mean, you need to be the superstar in your own movie. I'll tell you what, I could never have gotten on these podcasts if I didn't believe I was a superstar of my own movie. And and the reason why I'm on these podcasts and why I wrote the books, because I want to help people get here. It's so painful to live the other way, you know, and I know it. I've done it. And I also know it takes practical tips, you know, and some of them are corny. I mean, affirmations, I used affirmations a lot. Because the trick to stopping negative thoughts and replacing them is having something, a placeholder, you know? So in the beginning, when I was looking at my body and I was like, oh, it's so big. I don't like this. I don't like that. I would say to let me see if I can, my affirmation was, I'm so happy and grateful that I'm healthy from the guts out, that I'm fit, fine, and sexy as hell. That was my affirmation. I said it all the time. So as soon as I would say something bad about my physical appearance, then I would, nope, 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 nope. Because I want to be healthy from the guts out. I want all my guts to be healthy so that my body works properly, which it does. I'm 50, well, I'll be 57 real soon, but I still want to be sexy as hell. So, you know, that is my affirmation. And when you believe those affirmations, it leads you to doing the work to make them happen, you know, instead of thinking, oh God, look at me. I'm so tired. I don't look good. And then you're more likely to go sit on the couch and eat a hamburger or something, you know, instead of getting up and maybe taking a walk. So it's just your thought pattern is really, really important to how you play out the rest of your life.
So true. Thank you so much for that. My next question was on negative self-talk, where you handled that with that answer. My other question I wanted to ask, how can someone learn to accept and love themselves through their flaws or imperfections? On a spiritual level, we've spoken about physical, and I do want
Yeah.
to point out that the mirror exercise, they say, is so profound. Some people burst out crying when they look at themselves. For like, they say, okay, look at yourself for like 5 minutes. Really, really be present with yourself. So I'm pretty sure really brings about like drastic changes, especially done consistently. But what are other things or other ways that people can accept their imperfections?
I will say one more thing about the mirror work and mirroring I don't know if you've ever looked into somebody's eyes close up. That, if you want to know on a soul level who you are and who other people are, do that. Look in someone's eyes, have them look back at you. It's very profound and it really changes how you see yourself pretty quick because you can see someone else's soul if you're really looking. So I will say I know a lot of this I'm talking about physical a lot, but it's changed me so profoundly internally. I'll tell you, it all for me goes back to really meditation and listening to your higher self.
Okay.
So when I'm doing this, so all this growth, everything, if everybody loved themselves, we wouldn't have war. You can't love yourself and then go kill somebody. You can't do it. You know, you can't love yourself and then go do a hate crime. You know, they just don't live together. Love is abundance, hate is scarcity.
Mm.
So it's creating that abundance in your life. It's working with what you have. It's acceptance where you are. So, you know, like I told you before, I'd get really mad at myself if got angry. Like, that's not spiritual. But that is the work. That is the spiritual work. And it's accepting that. I was going to do a post the other day because I keep seeing these things online about resistance. Resist this and resist that. You don't want to resist anything. You have to accept what's happening before you can change it. So acceptance is where it's at. Once you accept a situation, like this is happening, now what? Is always a question for me. This is happening, now what? So spiritual work for me is that I just got really triggered. So, okay, now what? If you can remember now what, then you're halfway home. It's questioning, it's the inquiry, it's loving yourself enough and trusting yourself enough to go deeper. Because healing is, everybody says it, it's like a spiral. And you think, believe me, there's been times where I'm like, I have already done this work. And then it comes back around. Well, it's deeper. I didn't go deep enough. I got to go deeper. So it's now what? It's, gosh, I don't like where I'm at in my life. And I'll tell you right now, I've written another book and I rewrote this book like 5 times. I'm not even kidding you. Like I'd write it and then I'd read it and then I would think it needs to have this. And so I'd rewrite the whole book. And then I sent it off to an editor, like this really and he gave me what he wanted me to do. And so I've rewritten it and now I'm waiting to hear from him. And I've gotten down over it because it's been a year, and I'm ready for this thing to come out. And why isn't it coming out on my timeline? But it's a book about all the things we're talking about. It's called Roar. It's reclaiming your voice, owning your story, aligning in your truth, and radiating your light. So for those of us who are in any kind of transition and have lost ourselves through people pleasing or whatever, it's how to find this radiance again. And I have gotten myself so worked up about not the process of this book that I'm still in practice too. You see what I'm saying? Like, so my spiritual work is learning how to do the work and then sit back and be okay with divine timing and be okay with not knowing, not controlling. That's very spiritual work. So for me, everybody's spiritual. I like things a certain way. I like control. I wrote this book. It was going to be out by October, all this stuff. And now it's going to be out next October probably, but it's going to be right. It's going to all be right. So honestly, the spiritual work is accepting and then asking what now. If you find yourself resisting anything, it's time to take a breath and ask, what am I hitting against?
Yeah.
Because it's not going to get you anywhere. So what do I need to accept? You just can't move on until you accept. And I see this all the time. I had a friend here this weekend who was just resisting something. And it was like, but do you see, as soon as you accept it, there's solutions, like as soon as you accept, you can move on. And people get caught up on that too. Like it is a tricky one because sometimes it feels like we should be resisting certain things. And acceptance isn't laying down your sword and saying, oh, it's fine. Whatever's happening is fine. It's saying, I see what's happening. I accept what's happening. Now what can I do about it? So that's spiritual work. That's inner work. So anytime you have resistance to something from somebody else, you go to work today and your boss pisses you off. It's time to look at yourself and say, hey, why did I let that piss me off? What is the resistance I'm feeling? Everything is mirror work. Anytime anybody outside of you upsets you, it's your work. It's not their work. I'm not talking about abusive relationships where that's a different thing. But I'm talking about normal stuff. So that's the spiritual work. That's the inner work. It seems boring, but that's the truth. That's just the truth.
Thank you so much for breaking that down. I think that's a beautiful place to stop. And yes, I do agree with you that the spiritual work is different for everyone, but it's definitely not boring. It's like a roller coaster ride.
It's crazy.
Yes.
It's crazy. Yeah. I always tell it's easier to be ignorant.
Yeah, it is. Definitely. Definitely. Now, listeners, Julie Heaton reminds us that true manifestation doesn't just begin with a vision board. It begins with self-love. When you stop performing and start becoming, you don't just attract what you want. You align with who you truly are. If today's conversation spoke to your spirit, go visit hellojulieheaton.com. You'll find her books, free and paid resources, powerful journaling tools, and soul guided practices to help you reconnect with your voice, deepen your self love, and manifest a life rooted in worthiness, not performance. And if you'd like soul assistance on your life journey or clarity on subconscious blocks delaying your manifestations, book me for a tarot reading. You can find me at Perspective is Viv on most social media platforms because the most powerful thing you can manifest is you. Until next time, love yourself fiercely, speak your truth boldly, and don't forget your desires are sacred and you're worthy of them all. Thank you so much, Julie, for joining us on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. See you next time. Bye.